Welcome back to another episode of the My Latin Life podcast. Since 2014, My Latin Life has been your trusted guide to traveling and living in Latin America. Today, I have a special guest. His name is Ernesto Contreras, and he is the head of business development at Dash, a leading cryptocurrency. Ernesto, how's it going, man?
It's going great. Thank you for the invitation, Vance. It's a pleasure to be here and talk to you about all things Latin America, this time crypto and Dash. So I'm really excited to be here.
Yeah, absolutely. This is a direction that we're really already pursuing pretty actively, talking about crypto adoption in Latin America. I've had a couple guests on to talk about Bitcoin Cash, and I wanted to learn a little bit more about Dash today, learn about the adoption that we're seeing in Dash. And just kind of learning about Dash in general, because I actually am a software developer in my day to day job, but I'm not a super expert on Dash. So we're going to learn a little bit about the cryptocurrency. But first, I wanted to get a bit of background on yourself, how you got into the space, and just sort of give everyone a little bit of context on who you are.
Yeah. Well, I'm a Venezuelan engineer. I currently live in Mexico, south of Cancun. I have 17 years of work experience in consumer and technology. My first 7 years of work I did in Venezuela for consumer brands such as Kraft, some ice cream. And then in 2010, I got a scholarship and I took my bags and I moved to China. I lived in Shanghai from 2011 till 2013. And then after finishing there, I came to Mexico because I started working in technology. I worked for a small startup for in the telecom space for about 2 or 3 years, and then in 2017, I was offered to be the marketing manager for the largest exchange in Mexico at the time, which is now the largest unicorn in the region. Since 2017, I started working full time in crypto. And 2018, I had the chance to start working in Dash as the business development manager for Latin America.
Mhm.
And it's crazy to think it's been already 4 years. I am right now the head of business development globally for Dash Core Group, and basically what we do is we find organizations and partners that want to use Dash as a way of either enabling faster and better transactions of crypto or developing a new solution. So that means exchanges, that also means telephone company that we implemented. So the new phones have a little bit of Dash in it, and it means a lot and a lot and a lot of adoption. We've gone from the first chain of fast food, to my knowledge, in the world, accepting Dash globally. That was in Venezuela in 2018, to recently about 160,000 locations in the US that accept Dash through a partner. But it's been really really amazing to see how we've built a lot of usability for Dash, and we're basically at the peak of much usability, and that's just amazing.
Yeah, when I heard that there was 160,000 locations in the U.S. That accept Dash, I found that really surprising. Another 4,000 in Venezuela, and trust me, we're definitely going to talk a bit about usability and adoption in this conversation. But I also just wanted to get a bit more of your background, just to kind of understand who you are and everything a little bit better. Um, so it sounds like you were living in Venezuela up to around 2010. And I guess directly from Venezuela, you went to do your MBA and you went to Holt Business School. And which I know they have like six, seven campuses. Which one or which ones did you study at?
Yeah, I mean, at the moment, I was exploring where to get a master's or something, and I wanted to push my international experience further.
Hmm.
So at that time, I was working in a bathroom appliances company, and we were getting decimated by the Chinese products. So everyone was saying a lot of speculation about how China manufactures and how they can get those costs. And Holt is a school that has their main campus in Boston, and then they have satellite campuses in Dubai, London, San Francisco, and Shanghai. So when I knew that I could do my MBA in an American school in English in China, that was a no-brainer for me. So I went to Shanghai. I was supposed to rotate and do San Francisco, but I just fell in love with the Shang, and I stayed in Shanghai for almost 2 years. It was surreal to learn so much about China, their history, their culture, and I
Hmm.
just couldn't have enough. So I ended up staying way over my MBA. I took some Chinese classes to learn a little bit of Chinese, which is now Mama Hu Hu, which is bad. But yeah, that was amazing. And then after finishing that, I loved living abroad. I think that probably it's what's happening to you, and you just immerse yourself in new things. You push your boundaries. You're forced to learn new habits, new ways of
Hmm.
seeing things. And that was exactly what was offered to me after my MBA. So I came to Mexico, and I said I was going to be here for a couple of years, but you know what? Blink of an eye, and it's almost 9 years since I came, 8 years. I came here in 2013. So besides that, I love reading, riding my bicycle, and I love going to the beach as much as possible, which is the reason why now I moved out of Mexico City and I'm more to the south.
Yeah, and where? So you said south of Cancun. So are you in Playa del Carmen or Puerto
Yeah,
Morelos or where?
yeah, I'm close to Playa del Carmen. Yeah, very close to Playa del Carmen.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, I was just in Playa up until February of this year, so I know Playa super well.
Yeah, oh, great. So maybe we could have met if we had known. But yeah, I mean, it's totally different from Mexico City. That has its positives and its not so positives. In Mexico City and Guadalajara as well, you have all these services. Everything is much faster. But here, you're a bit more far from the regular faster living of cities, and it's I love the clean air, but things are a bit slower, and there's no Uber, for example, so it's more difficult to move around. Although in downtown Playa del Carmen, there's lots of bikes and stuff to move around, but I'm not there because I didn't want to live in a place that's party it's 24/7. So I'm like more in the outskirts so that I can enjoy more of the nature and ride my bicycle.
Yeah, for sure. If I had to guess, you're maybe in Real Ibiza, but I won't. You don't have to say anything. Yeah, Playa del Carmen, definitely clean air. Um, Slower pace of living, but I think you really do have all the services. I mean, there's two Walmarts,
Yeah,
and they kind of everything, so it's a really good balance.
yeah,
Um, you know what I was thinking though is that moving from Venezuela to China must have been an insane change. How was
yeah,
that?
yeah. At the moment, Venezuela was not the destroyed economy that it is now. So I was living in pretty much what you would find in most Latin American cities. Inequality, but services were good. At the moment, Venezuela was, for example, one of the countries with the highest penetration of smartphones. So the biggest change was to see how China was such a futuristic place, and I wasn't expecting that it would be so forward looking. I remember in Shanghai just seeing all the huge amount of skyscrapers and all the international brands that I didn't expect to see there. The Louis
Hmm.
Vuitton, the Bentley dealerships, and of course the McDonald's and Starbucks every corner. So
Hmm.
it was really interesting to see that number one, many of us have the all of our thoughts wrong about China, about it being very rural and non-capitalistic place. It's full with all the international brands, and the big cities are really, really futuristic. And in terms of getting to know a bit of the culture, and I say a bit because you can never learn enough of one culture. It was mind blowing that the Chinese people in Venezuela are very different in terms of behaving. to the Chinese people in China. In Venezuela, I found them to be more private and less open and more. I don't know if the word is cold, but more serious. And in Venezuela, we have a lot of Chinese that own retailers and small stores. So you would
Hmm.
go and buy something, and they'll be like, 24, that's it, or 24, because they don't pronounce the R. And then they're very cold, and they give you your change, and that's it. But when I went to China, I was surprised to see, the warmth of people, and how open they were and how nice they were to the Laowais, or the foreigners, how they
Hmm.
call them. So that was really interesting. And of course, I couldn't explore as much as I would want to, because I was full time studying. So all the exploring was, in the afternoons or in the weekends, or whenever we had some holidays. But yeah, it was amazing. And then I had the chance to work with a couple of companies that hired me for sourcing projects. And when I went to the industrial areas of Shanghai, or in the south, Shenzhen or Guangzhou, it was just, number one, very impressive to see the size of these things. I remember driving in front of the Foxconn uh, site at Shenzhen,
Hmm. The
and
factories.
yeah, but Foxconn is where they make all of the Apple material.
Hmm.
So I was driving in front of the bigger one they have in China, and you start driving by it, and you see the first exit, and you drive for about 30 minutes, and it's still the same location that does Foxconn. Maybe I'm exaggerating a bit, but I remember driving a lot, and driving and driving and driving, and to the right there was still the factory and the buildings where people stay. So that just shows you a bit of the size and the magnitude of the industrial power that the Chinese have. So it was very, very mind-boggling, and it just opened my view to many things that I had not experienced before, especially in the terms of size difference between countries.
Hmm. Yeah, so even when you were in Venezuela, you mentioned that you realized that China was becoming very competitive, quote unquote, taking over. You went over there, you started learning Chinese, you got to see it firsthand during really some of the most rapid years of the development of the country. 2011 to 2013, probably seeing like 10% plus GDP growth per year.
Yeah.
And I think you said that even after your MBA ended, you decided to stay on for a little bit. Um, I know, maybe I can phrase this correctly, but I know like a lot of like gringos are very starry eyed about Latin America, and we love the good weather, and it's easier for us. But a lot of maybe Latinos are slightly more pessimistic because it is a little bit harder to earn a living. My question is sort of, when you were in China, were you wanting to go back to Latin America? Did you want to continue in China? Um, or did you want to maybe like go to the US when you got your MBA, or like what kind of like set of options did you have that led to, your decisions of where to base up and what to do next?
Yeah. Well, I definitely wanted to stay more in China. And there were like two different periods of me staying in Shanghai. The first period is when I was studying, and you literally live in a bubble, because you're studying, you have your savings, you live in your dorm, you go to school, then you go party, then you study again. So that's literally not life in China. And then when I stayed later for doing a couple of projects, and I started actually looking for jobs. Then I moved out of the dorm, and I stayed in a local apartment. And then you see a little bit more of the reality of living in a very far off place. And you
Hmm.
start now. I didn't have my 90 friends to fall back on or ask for anything. You were more alone. So overall, I loved it, and I stayed as much as I could. But one thing I realized is that me having a background in marketing and business development, without having a very good management of the language. And as I said, at the time my Chinese was very basic. Right now it's basic and rusty. So it wasn't good enough for getting a growth or marketing position that I wanted.
Hmm.
So that's what made me, say, okay, maybe I won't stay here any much longer because I'm not moving forward like I wanted.
Hmm.
And then, I had these conversations with people before going to my MBA that, there were some opportunities in other places. So I rang them up and I said, well, what do you have? And I was exploring whether to come back to Venezuela. 2013, the country was still not bad economically, although I always saw that the direction that the economy was being taken was not sustainable. And that's why, I had a couple of opportunities to interview in different places. And of all of them, I decided Mexico because of the huge economy and how close it is to the rest of the world, and how I personally believe that Mexico is the better invested country in all of Latin America, because almost every company in the US that wants to expand, they generally explore Mexico first. And
Hmm.
European and Asian companies that want to go to the Americas, they usually go to Mexico or Brazil.
Hmm.
So that analysis told me, well, in Mexico, there's going to be good opportunities to do stuff, fun stuff, technology, and do a lot of growth and learning.
Hmm.
And that mixed with the first opportunity I had here just made me finish packing up and coming to Mexico. And it's been amazing here. I've had the chance of living in Mexico City, Guadalajara, Cancun, where I am now, and like literally three, four places inside of Mexico City. So I've had the chance to live in different places, and the culture here, the food, the people. This is so rich, and I've had a great time.
Yeah, that's awesome. I also have a Venezuelan buddy in Playa del Carmen. They run a multi-million-dollar online business, so maybe I could introduce you guys at some point.
Oh, cool! Yeah, we'll have some arepas or tequeños in there.
Yeah, there's a couple of good Venezuelan restaurants in Playa. There's I think it's called the Venezuelan Corner. There's another one near the Palacio Municipal. It's like right across the street. I forget what it's called though. It starts with a
Yeah,
K.
yeah, it's like across a plaza, right?
Yeah, it's called like it's like a
Yeah,
Venezuelan word.
yeah, I've been there. I've been there. I mean, I had come here like 4 or 5 years ago, and I always wanted to come and stay longer. And I've been working remotely for almost 5 years, so I didn't do it before because I don't know, I never considered it. So just finally made the plans, looked for it, and changed, and it's we've been here for only about 2 months, so maybe we'll stay a bit
Oh
more.
wow. Yeah, that's awesome that you're able to work remote. Um, tell you know, I almost want to continue going sort of like consecutively with your story, but I feel like we should maybe talk a little bit about Dash. Um, so yeah, I guess the simplest question is, what is Dash?
Yeah. Well, Dash is a cryptocurrency just like Bitcoin, Litecoin, Bitcoin Cash, or any of these other cryptos that are open source. They're borderless and they're decentralized. So Dash is short for digital cash, and it's a cryptocurrency that's a fork of Bitcoin, but it's got some technical improvements to make it faster and cheaper to send around. So if I send you $1 or $10,000 of Dash, you will get them within 2 seconds. It's usually a second something, and the cost is going to be about a 20th of a penny. So
Hmm.
that enables several use cases such as small amounts of remittances, micropayments, and so on and so on. In the trading space, Dash is very much utilized for moving money from one exchange to the other. So let's say you have, you know, you're trading money on Binance and Coinbase, and you see that there's an opportunity to buy Bitcoin cheaper on Coinbase. If you would send your Bitcoin, it would take, if you would send money from Binance to Coinbase, it would take you maybe an hour to get the money there. But if you converted whatever you had on Binance and sent it to Coinbase, you would have your money available for buying that cheaper Bitcoin in about 5 minutes. And in other exchanges, that takes 3 seconds. So this opens up a lot of arbitrage and trading opportunities. And that is the technical side of Dash. On the organization side, Dash was the first DAO, decentralized autonomous organization, which means anyone can post proposals to the Dash network. And if they're voted positively, you can receive rewards in Dash. So then you can build projects and solutions to grow the Dash ecosystem. This allows for teams to grow in Thailand. This
Hmm.
allows for a marketing hub that's operating out of the US. This allows for the Dash Core Group, which is where I work. We have we're about 45 or 50 people. Almost all of them are developers, and there's about four people that are doing business development and marketing, and we
Hmm.
help this grow. So the DAO allows anyone to take this technology that I described and apply it either to developing more solutions or to growing and doing business development to allow for more usage. So for me, this is a very unique proposition, and it's one of the reasons why I believe that Dash has taken the lead in getting a lot of adoption and usage. And of course, we've run a lot of experiments that haven't worked out well, but this is a unique um, differentiator, in my opinion, versus other coins that maybe are good for payments but don't have the way of spreading seeds and figuring out which one grows.
Hmm. Okay, and so just to explain to people, a DAO stands for Decentralized Autonomous Organization, which is sort of like an alternative uh, organizational structure, sort of like a the new crypto alternative to an LLC. And is it true that that the Dash DAO was the very first DAO?
As far as I'm aware, there was no other DAO before Dash. Back in Dash was launched on 2014, and then I believe it took about a year to spin up the DAO. And I don't recall any other large crypto that has been number one as long as we have with a working DAO, and that has all the experience and all the ups and downs we've had as a DAO. So yeah, I'm very proud and happy to say that even though we haven't pushed the narrative of being a DAO with the new breed of DAOs, um, what I've seen is that we have a working system right now. Anyone can go to dashcentral.org and submit a proposal. And then there's a network of about 5,000 masternodes, and about maybe between 1,000 to 1,500 of them constantly vote on the projects. And then you have all of these teams that are working and developing very cool stuff for the Dash network. One of them is the solution that we're going to talk about that allows for 160,000 places in the US to receive Dash. But this has, for example, allowed for, in the past, we had about 20 teams in Venezuela that submitted proposals, and then they did um, webinars, meetups, adoption initiatives. We have teams in Brazil that are also doing the same. We've had teams in the US and in Europe. So this allows for an automated mechanism for different organizations to say, hey, I want to contribute to Dash. Here it is. Here is how I can be an active participator in Dash.
Hmm. Wow, that's amazing. And so I think when I kind of looked at your LinkedIn, you started off as sort of the Latin American representative for Dash, and then actually got promoted to are the global head of business development, or how exactly does it work?
Yeah, yeah. Initially, I started by helping Dash Core Group grow in projects and initiatives with a Latin American focus. And about 2 years ago, there was the opportunity, and I started managing the whole team. The whole team is not a big team. We're about 4 people in total. In this
Hmm.
moment, we're a man short. But yeah, what we do is we take care of all the growth initiatives that DCG can handle. And that goes from talking to exchanges. For example, for us to get into Coinbase, it
Hmm.
took about 2 years because the process is
Oh
not
wow.
as fast as, from the first time you make an intro, and then, the exchanges, they have their own velocity. And sometimes, they're saying we're not going to add any more coins, and then they start adding coins, and it's relationship building for the bigger projects on the same type of large projects, but a bit more non-crypto. It took us about 20 months to get into the largest point of sale integrator in Venezuela. This is, when you go to a supermarket, when you're going to pay, that system is set up by a point of sale company,
Hmm.
and that point of sale company gives it to a supermarket. So from the first reach out I did to this company called Megasoft until they were finally live, it took about 20 months, almost 2 years. And those are the bigger projects. Then there are the I'm going to call them smaller, less complex projects where there's a startup with a wallet or a smaller exchange and they want to accept Dash. So that's basically what we've been doing. And I did it initially only in Latin America. And then after that, we did it. I'm leading the global team. And that means that we focus more on the Americas region because of we're closer, and we're not a huge team. But also, we keep integrating products and services in Europe and Asia. It's really interesting. It's many times it means that you have to take a call at 5 a.m. or at 10 p.m. if you're going to
Hmm.
talk to the other side of the world. But it's part of the beauty of working in a remote and decentralized organization.
No, I get it. I mean, you can have the best technology in the world, but someone's kind of got to go out there and build the partnerships with the exchanges, with the point of sale, with this and that, because a lot of stuff does happen organically, but a lot of stuff does sort of need people as drivers. And it makes me, it sort of begs the question, and apologies, I don't want to be too like pocket watchy, but how are people on the Dash team compensated? Is it sort of on a volunteer basis? Do you get like paid out like a percentage of like coins or
Yeah.
something? Or like how does it all work?
Yeah, the way the Dash DAO works is, remember I said anyone can post proposals and then receive grants from it.
Hmm.
So anyone can go to dashcentral.org and submit a proposal. So let's say that you wanted to make a My Latin Life set of interviews or videos around Latin America, and that would cost you, I'm making numbers of, $5,000 a month. You
Right. So
could
like a
go to the,
Kickstarter.
yeah, you could go to the website, submit a proposal, and say, I'm going to do this, and the outcomes are going to be 2 videos per month. And then if you get approved, you will get, let's say you wanted $5,000, and right now One Dash we're at $100. So you would submit a proposal for 50 Dash,
Hmm.
and then you would get those 50 Dash every month for the next 2 months, and you would then cash them out and change them into dollars if that's what you wanted.
Definitely makes sense. And then, so, I mean, so there's software developers. I'm sure some of them are submitting pull requests just because they find bugs and they're not really compensated. I guess it sounds like other developers are maybe putting together proposals for larger feature sets and they want to be compensated for those feature sets. Is everyone sort of working on a contract project basis? Is anyone sort of like on a salary that's like paid out by the DAO or?
Yeah, yeah. The way it works is you have that network that I just described, and people get paid in Dash. But then under the super block, which is the way or the moment where salaries are paid, or projects are paid, under the super block, you can build companies and then you can hire people that are paid from the super block, but then through the company. That is exactly the case of DCG. So DCG found a way to creating a formal structure. So DCG or Dash Core Group has, for example, bank accounts where they can store the money that they save, and then they can receive. Let's say they received 2,000 Dash, and that's $200,000. So they would cash out that money and put it in a bank, and then they would be able to normally hire people like a regular organization. Other organizations or individuals prefer to keep the dash, and then if the dash goes up, then you have more money for the runway, and if it goes down, you have less money. But everyone organizes their organization around
Hmm.
the way to better serve the DAO. Something
Hmm.
that we learned in the past winter is that if you keep all of your money in Dash and Dash crashes, then you're going to be in a difficult financial situation. So, something that I've seen different teams do is that they can build a reserve and then have a reserve of fiat. So, then if the price of Dash goes up or down too much, it will not impact you. So, you have more stability. So, what's been really unique and great to see within the DAO is how the organizations within it have learned how to deal in a crypto world. Um, we still get paid most of our things in Dash, but some of the people, and especially in certain geographies, because of regulation, prefer to get paid in fiat because it's easier. So
Hmm.
there's a mix of that. So, but overall, the DAO pays to the organization in Dash, denominated in Dash, and then at the exchange rate, that organization can decide to pay their employee or employees in Dash or in dollars, depending how. And then they also then have to do the accounting and all the other legal requirements. But it's a very cool and unique experiment, and as far as I know, it's the only one in the world that has been doing it for so long. And the DAO in general, of course, has had its ups and downs, but it's really unique and it's really cool. I really believe in the future, in 10, 20 years from now, DAOs are going to be very popular, and there's going to be more beyond just crypto.
Hmm.
Because here's an
Definitely.
example that I see that it's going to be a really low hanging fruit. Imagine the I always forget how to say this in English, the administration of a building or a compound. And everyone in those apartments, they have one vote, and they can decide whether you want to build a basketball court
Yep.
or plant more trees. So if everyone votes, and then they say we're going to vote for more trees and we're going to hire contractor A, immediately those funds can get disbursed to contractor A, who would then go and plant more trees. So that type of automated governance, where you're connecting the source of funds and the distribution, is something unique and something that I believe will go beyond just the crypto companies.
Yeah, there's definitely something to be said for longevity, and the DAO model is really, really interesting. When did Dash launch on Coinbase? Like, what year was it?
Well, it was probably 2 years ago. It was about half of my tenure here.
And so, what was that process like? I mean, I know that Coinbase has a very high barrier to entry, a strenuous process. Like, do you have any good like anecdotes of the the day to day process there in
Yeah,
terms of getting that onboarded?
yeah, and I understand a lot of it, or I think I understand a lot of it because I worked in an exchange before. So the day to day of an exchange is that you have a million things going on. You have to keep your customers happy, you have to provide great service, you have to have
Hmm.
good liquidity, and then you're also playing on the defensive a lot, because every exchange, I'm sure it's getting dozens or tens of attacks every month, and there's lots of people just working to see how they can hack exchanges. So whenever an exchange gets an attack, they have to stop doing other things and then dedicate to making sure they control and stop the attack and then mitigate whatever happens.
Hmm.
So I understand that exchanges are thinking of growing and at the same time making sure they can be secure. And then on top of that, maybe you get a call from a regulator asking questions on why you're selling Bitcoin if Bitcoin is used for criminals. So they are constantly having a handful of things going on, and the growth projects are not always as fast as people wanted. So the way it goes, you reach out to them and you say, hey, we're working with Dash. We can provide your customers this and those features or this and those benefits. And we have this huge community of whatever. Let's talk. Usually, the largest exchanges, they have a listing process. So they ask you to send a bunch of information and then they check it internally. But where it gets tricky is that because of the history and the accusations of some exchanges moving the price because they're so good that if they say, hey, Dash is going to be listed on Coinbase, the price will explode, then usually all of these exchanges never tell you that they're going to list you. So you're basically talking to people and you're on the dark and you don't know exactly what or when will happen, but you see that something is moving forward. And then when
Hmm.
you start receiving emails back with more specific technical questions like, well, what is instant send? What is chain locks? Why does this way take 2 seconds and this other way takes 2 minutes? Then you're like, okay, they're working on the integration, but you never get a confirmation from them. And then maybe a day or two, and that's the case with Coinbase, they put up a blog post and they're saying, hey, we're going to start trading Dash in 2 days, and you're like, oh yeah. But in all of this time that you're responding to them and talking, you well, what we did is we worked with our marketing team and say, hey, it looks like we'll be on Coinbase. Let's prepare an announcement. Let's prepare a bunch of posts. Let's prepare a giveaway so that whenever that happens, we can put more uh, communication out there and we can get a bigger splash. So that's exactly what happened with Coinbase. We had been talking to them for a long time. Sometimes the emails would take a couple of weeks or a couple of months to be returned from their side, and then they started being more faster in communication and asking more specific details. And
Hmm.
that's when we were saying, okay, we're onto something. And then you see the blog post, and 2 days later, finally, that process is completed.
It's funny. It definitely sounds like a bit of an opaque process, which is a bit ironic in the world of cryptocurrency. Um, what do you think might have been some of the biggest obstacles to onboarding onto Coinbase? And what do you think it was that maybe ultimately moved the meter or allowed Dash to get the okay to move forward?
Yeah. Well, I have to say that all of this that I'm saying is speculation because I never got any specifics from Coinbase or any other partner. But
Hmm.
what I can imagine that happens is they have their own priorities, and maybe they're saying let's list more coins, and then NFTs come along, and they're like, oh, you know what? Don't continue working on these bands. Let's go and do NFTs, and then they start doing NFTs, or maybe they're working and they get a call from a regulator that's asking about certain coins, and they have to stop adding more coins because they're responding. So they have
Hmm.
their own processes and priorities that drive what they move faster than the other. And definitely what makes them, in my opinion, consider listing a coin is that the coin is either becoming very popular, like recently they launched the ape coin, and because it's
Hmm.
so popular and everyone's talking about ape, you have seen that many exchanges just listed the board ape coin, or it
Hmm.
becomes very useful, or a mix of those. So what I can imagine is that 2 years ago, they realized that Dash was one of the only coins or maybe the only coin that was working to get a lot of real adoption. And that goes very well with the ethos of crypto. You want to be able to have peer-to-peer electronic cash, which is the way everything started with the white paper of Satoshi. So I definitely have strong feelings that they saw the work that all the Dash DAO was doing, and how we
Hmm.
were opening up usage capabilities and use cases in different parts of the world, and they acknowledged that was good for crypto overall, and they wanted to be part of it.
Definitely. And you're setting up a good segue, Ernesto, which is to talk about usability and everything. Um, I want to actually leave usability kind of till the end because I wanted to ask specifically about Bitcoin Cash and sort of other Bitcoin competitors. Um, and so let's sort of do that segment first, and then we'll kind of speak to the amazing adoption that we're seeing of Dash and all that. So, to my understanding, Dash is a fork of Bitcoin. Bitcoin Cash is a fork of Bitcoin. Um, what's like the main difference between the two?
Yeah, I have to say that I'm not an expert on Bitcoin Cash, although I've used a little bit of it. Um, I understand that Dash was born with the intent of being very different from Bitcoin insofar that it's supposed to be digital cash. So the code is, in my very bad understanding of code, has big differences. One of them is that we are a two-tiered network. So we have not only the miners, but then there's the level of the master nodes, which provide other services to the Dash network. So these two levels allow for having more things. Although there are some similar services that I know Bitcoin Cash does, but I think the way that they went through it was differently. In my understanding, and I could be wrong, please correct me here. Bitcoin Cash increased the block size, and that allows for some things. With the masternode approach, you have this level of connection to the network that allows you for double checking things. For example, when you send a Dash transaction, that transaction gets broadcasted to a small subset of the master nodes, and then they validate if the transaction is real or not. And they return, yeah, this is a real transaction, go ahead and process it. And then they pass that transaction to a line that will be mined later. And this not only allows for faster transactions than, let's say, Bitcoin, but it's allowing a new development that is happening now that's called a platform or evolution, where you will be able to store some data on the chain. So I think that's a difference technically. But the biggest difference, non technical, is the voting part. And yeah, please.
And yeah, no, I didn't even want you to go down the technical route because neither of us are super experts on that. But I was actually more interested in sort of the user experience perspective of Bitcoin Cash versus Dash. And I guess for a little background, so I think from what I'm hearing, Dash forked from Bitcoin in 2014, and I think Bitcoin Cash forked in 2017, if I'm not mistaken.
Mhm, mhm,
But
mhm.
ultimately, like, they both provide sort of peer-to-peer transactions, very low transaction fees,
Yeah,
in pennies transaction fee, even if you send $1 million,
yeah,
and it's very, very fast, like a second or two.
yeah.
um, at the user experience level, they both sound good. They basically both sound the same on those sort of two metrics of low fees and speed. Are there any other points of interest or things that you would note from a user experience perspective uh, with Dash versus Bitcoin Cash?
Yeah, I think in terms of usability, they are very similar from what I've seen. Uh, you know, Low cost and fast speed. And the big difference, I would say, is that with Dash, you have a DAO, which is a way that you can approach to get funding for developing things. And
Hmm.
I'm not sure how the development or the grants, or if I wanted to work for Bitcoin Cash, how I would approach to try to get some grants from it. Even though that's debatable, because I've had this conversation with friends that are only Bitcoiners,
Hmm.
and what they tell me is that, yeah, you don't build stuff with grants, you just build it with the network. So those are other types of debates, but just to highlight the difference from a UX perspective, if you have a product that is built on Dash or Bitcoin Cash, I think that the working will be similar right now. And from a ecosystem perspective, the Dash DAO has a way to allocate grants, and I don't know how the Bitcoin Cash community would allocate funding and resources. But those are
Hmm.
the differences that I see. And as I said again, I'm not an expert in Bitcoin Cash, so I would defer to you to tell me a bit more about how the building of stuff happens on Bitcoin Cash.
Yeah, and I'm not an expert either, but I do obviously like the sound of a DAO. I like the sound of an open governance model, and the ability for everyone in the community to sort of get together and choose what's best for the coin and for the community. Um, I know Bitcoin Cash is sort of tightly held in terms of the number of not shareholders, but like coin holders at the top. What do you know about Dash? Like, who are the biggest holders of Dash? Is it mostly in the hands of private individuals? What kind of institutional adoption are you seeing? Like, yeah, who are the biggest like groups pushing Dash forward from a
Yeah,
or biggest holders?
yeah. I saw a website that I'm trying to pull up now that's called "Are We Decentralized Yet?" And it showed something like, yeah, for example, the percentage of money supply held by the top 100 accounts in Dash is 14%, and in Bitcoin is 19%. So the top 100 accounts in Bitcoin hold 19% of the coins, and in Dash they hold 14% of the coins.
Is
And
Bitcoin Cash there?
yeah, let me look at it. Bitcoin Cash says 24%.
Oh wow.
Yeah, and this is just one reference that I saw once, and I'm not sure if Dogecoin is 50%. So, according to this metric, and it's not perfect because every time people rebate or debate that exchanges are some of the biggest holders, but that's just one way of seeing it. In the
Right.
day to day, what I see in Dash is, well, before this, Dash was launched in 2014, and then it stayed trading for less than $1 for about a year, and then it went up to the $1 to $5 range for another maybe year or so, and then it shot up. So the whatever distribution happened initially, and there was a big fight because there was an Instamine bug which was inherited by the part of the Litecoin code that was used. Whatever distribution happened in the first couple of months had about a year or something to change again. And that brings us to today, where, when I see the voting pattern, there are a lot of single or two masternode votes, and there's obviously a few voters with large number of masternodes. How do I know this? There are a couple of websites that show you the proposals and the votes as they happen. So you see, like every 2 minutes, if there's a two vote for a proposal, and that two vote is repeated everywhere, you imagine, well, this is a person with two masternodes. And then there's 75 votes on everything, and you would imagine that there's somebody with 75 masternodes. So I mean, just from my own speculation and observation of the network, out of the thousand more or less thousand constant votes, there's maybe like 300 that are in the hands of a few people, and then there's maybe like another 500 that are in the hands of many people. So, I mean, just like anything else, there's always some concentration. Some people were very lucky or very visionary to get in early, and you get rewards from masternodes. This is something I forgot to tell you. So, we actually kind of invented the staking concept as well. We never called it staking.
Oh, well.
So if you have 1,000 coins, you spin up a masternode, you get this chance to vote, and also you get about 7% of return per year. So yeah, we did a bunch of innovations back in the day, which is one of the reasons why Dash spiked in the 2018 era. And we've been working. The tech team has been working hard to push the new round of innovations, and we have not done it yet. Hopefully, we'll do it by the middle of this year, and that'll put us again on the radar of many people. But when we start peeling the onion and talking to people about the innovations and the capabilities we've had for years, that wow that you mentioned is quite common because they're like, oh, we didn't know that you were the first DAO. We didn't know that you can stake coins in there. So yeah, it's a great technology, and I respect all the other technologies out there, and but I really feel that Dash is very, very good in terms of what they do and what the coin can also do.
Yeah, that's really cool that you guys were one of the first people to do staking. Speaking of competition, so are there any other Bitcoin forks that are in the top 100 coins that have billion plus market caps? Are there any other dashes Bitcoin caches out there?
Yeah, yeah. There's Litecoin. There is also, in a way, you could say Ripple and Stellar, but they're not um, individual facing. They're more of like B2B and working with banks. Um, I'm not sure. I haven't used it, but I've heard that Solana is also pretty fast. Um,
Was it a fork of Bitcoin too?
oh no, you're
No,
right.
no,
You're
that's
right.
what I
Yeah,
mean. Like, what was,
yeah,
you know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
kind of thinking, like, what were the other forks? Because it'd be kind of cool to maybe just like invest in a basket of all the
Of
forks of
money
Bitcoin
coins.
that,
Yeah,
yeah, that kind of like, increase the throughput or whatever. And so that
yeah,
you don't have to necessarily choose a winner and you can just sort of invest in all 10 and,
yeah, yeah.
hopefully they all,
I believe Decred is also either a fork of Litecoin or a fork of Dash. But yeah, I'll have to look around. And the reality is just like you're saying, I have seen that the market for payments coin has been kind of neglected in the past years.
it
And
has.
and I think it's going to come to fruition because right now there's, well, what I think MetaMask said that they had around 30 million users. So some of these people want to use directly the coins they have. And to be very honest, I love Ethereum, but it's not very usable for buying things unless you want to pay that 20 or
Mm-hmm.
$50 gas.
Mm-hmm.
So usage coins, I think, are on the rise, and there's a huge opportunity. I'll tell you an example. I read yesterday that the club in Miami called 11, they
Mm-hmm.
enabled crypto spending about a year ago, and they have received, I think, over $5 million in purchases in crypto. So so
It's a lot of bottles.
that's a lot of bottles, yeah. And what I imagine is that these are just the early shows of usage in developed markets. I haven't even spoken about what goes on in broken economies like Venezuela and so on. But people are starting to see, hey, this is not only for buying a picture of a monkey. This is something that I can also use for certain use cases, and that's what we're doing. And like you're saying, I agree that maybe there could be a basket of potential. um no, I
Yeah,
wouldn't like to call them.
utility coins, payment
Yeah,
coins.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Hmm.
yeah,
I definitely agree with that. I think the coins that are in search of a market uh, they just don't have good fundamentals. You know what I mean? And so a lot of people say that these payment based coins actually have the best fundamentals because they have widespread adoption. People already have them in their wallets. People, they have brand familiarity because people are like actually using them. In the same sense that, you know, there's companies on the S&P 500 that no one's heard of, and there's, because they're just sort of B2B. And then there's companies that people have heard of because it's McDonald's or Nike or whatever, and those are often ultimately more valuable because they have sort of durable brand recognition.
Yeah, yeah, and this is it's a run for the long term. So yeah, it's let's see what the cycles do, and I mean, we have seen a lot of new entrants, and but make no mistake, our market cap has grown for the past years. So what's happened is that there's a lot of new kids on the block, if you know, if you may, the
Hmm.
Shiba Inu and the other coins, and yeah, they can be interesting to some people for some time. But our bet, and what I personally believe, is that when you find usability in technology, that is what's sustainable.
Definitely. So another good segue to talk about usability. Feel free to take this in whatever direction you want to sort of speak up the usability of Dash. But I guess, like, where did it all start organically? Did it more start in Venezuela, Latin America, or did it start in the U.S. first, or kind of concurrently in different markets?
Yeah, well, it usability for crypto has to do, in my experience, with two things. Number one, an ideological desire to use something different than fiat, and number two, a financial necessity of moving away from the local currency. So, since the very start of crypto, I know that there's places around the world, such as New Hampshire, where people are ideologically very, very open to trying out things that are not the government money. So
Hmm.
since the first time I heard about crypto, I heard that in New Hampshire, although I haven't been there yet, there's a lot of places that are promoting and accepting crypto. But that stayed in my learning within a small niche within only certain geographies. On the other hand, you have broken economies like Argentina did a couple of years ago, and it's going now, like Venezuela did, where just keeping your local money in the bank, your bolivars or your Argentinian pesos, is financial suicide. So if you, I'll give you an example. If when I left Venezuela to go to China, I sold my car for about 120,000 bolivars. Last time I went to Venezuela, 120,000 bolivars would not get you a coffee. So, a cup of coffee.
Oh.
So, if I had kept the money from my car in the bank, I would be left with maybe the tissue to accompany my coffee. So, in a place like that, people are forced to look for alternatives. And that's why in 2018, when somebody approached the DAO and said, "Hey, I want to do some stuff with Dash in Venezuela," they set up for a 50 people meetup and 300 people showed up. Because when you're forced into that position of not seeing your money evaporate, people go and they look for many things. And that's the reason why the volumes of Bitcoin went through the roof for years and years in Venezuela. They're still very high, and I'll tell you later why you don't see them now. But that just showed a different path to adoption that, in 2018, the US, Europe, and many other places were not really on a mainstream basis open or interested in crypto. And in places like Argentina, Venezuela, Brazil, maybe, that they had a history of inflation or they were going through hyperinflation at the moment, they were like, yes, I need this. So from 2018 till today, we have built a huge network of places to use things in Venezuela. And also consider that many of these places, because of the broken financial structure infrastructure, they don't have as many technological solutions like great APIs and connections. So regardless of that, we've built a network of places to use Dash in Venezuela, which include Church's Chicken, which to my knowledge was the first full chain of fast food that accepted crypto in the whole nation. That was in Venezuela. And we have a couple of points of sale companies that then integrate into supermarkets. So we have, I think it's 5 or 6 full chain of supermarkets where you can go and spend Dash and Bitcoin and other cryptos in Venezuela. Just as a small example, when my mom goes to buy groceries, sometimes I pay for all of the shopping, and she just writes to me a little bit before she goes to the cashier, and she says, "Hey, Ernest, it's going to be $160." So I send the $160 in Dash. She gets it in a second, and then she goes to the cashier. They pull up the QR code, and she pays, and that's it. So that is one way that we can make people's life easier in broken economies. Now you fast forward to today, and in the U.S. and the crypto, the belief that crypto is real and is here to stay has grown astronomically from we don't need this mainstream to yeah, this is cool. And that's why in the past 6 months we have seen more and more non-crypto people being open to crypto in the US, such as this club that I mentioned. And I've read, and we've been talking to potential partners that are non-crypto that are saying yes, let's integrate some of these coins, and Dash is great. It's a perfect fit for payments. So I imagine, or I visualize that a lot more of non-crypto companies are going to open up the doors for crypto, and the payments part is going to continue to be small, but every day bigger, because this is definitely the future.
Hmm. I really like the example that you used, and definitely hit us with more anecdotes because it definitely and examples because it definitely helps paint the picture to the listener. And what's cool about your example is is you had both a remittance transaction happening there, and then you also had a in-country sort of peer-to-peer transaction happening there. Whereas before, think about what that used to look like. You would have had to send money to your mom to Western Union. She'd have to go wait in some line with 10 people in front of her at Western Union. There's like a 10% fee. So you're getting crushed on the exchange. And then she can go to the store, and obviously we've removed that whole inefficiency there. And so and then they have basically the peer-to-peer or B2C transaction where she's actually paying for something in a store, and the infrastructure is there for that. Because there's kind of a couple different pieces of the puzzle for crypto, where there's remittances slash international transactions or intercurrency transactions. There's the store of value slash inflation hedge angle. And then there's also the sort of in country peer to peer transactions where things are sort of still mark to market in the same currency, aka Bolivar to Bolivar. Um, and so your example had two going on. And then I'm sure you could also talk about how maybe uh, give some dash to your family every month, and that stays probably significantly more stable over time than if they had held that in Bolivar. Do you have
Yeah,
any
but
other like?
yeah,
Yeah, go
yeah.
ahead.
I wanted to stop you a second to say, to make it even more interesting, there is no Western Union in Venezuela. So if I wanted to send money, I would have to go through a circle of people that I know or that I meet on social media, and that they've become options to Western Union. And that happens the same way around the world in all the places that don't have good financial infrastructure. So yeah, there's many ways. Like for example, sometimes, and I gave the example of my mom because that's a very close one, but sometimes when you want to just send money to a loved one, or you want to use local money in a place where you don't have an account, you just go peer to peer. And what I recommend people is, let's say that you're sending. someone $200 that they're going to use for the month, you can teach them how to receive in Tether, or you can keep it in Tether, and then you can change from the crypto to Tether, so that way they'll always have their 200. And then whenever it's time to use, you can change it back and send it, and they can
Hmm.
use it. Or
Hmm.
you can just, what I do in my case is I go to a peer-to-peer exchange and I change that money for the local currency. So that way, and what happens in inflation economies is that having money in your hands is like having a bit of water. If you don't rush and use it, it's all going to drip down your hands. So you want to tell people, hey, Vance, when are you going to go shopping? And you'll say, oh, I'll go Saturday morning. So you'll try to send the money as close to Saturday as you can, so inflation will not hit you. And that is one use case, like you correctly mentioned. And another use case is, let's say you're a good person and you live in Russia right now. Because of all the blockades, you will not be able to receive a wire. So what cryptocurrencies would enable you is you can get paid in Dash or in Bitcoin Cash or in Bitcoin, and then figure out the way to sell that for your local currency, and then you would be able to go and spend it. And because you're not a sanctioned individual, you could do this without any problems. And most exchanges, even though there's a difficult time now for the good people that are in Russia, they will not block you. Of course, if you're somebody working with the government, you will probably be blocked by an exchange. But this is what I tell people all the time: cryptocurrencies give you an option for having more financial freedom, and that is exactly the reason why I love what we're doing, and we do it with passion.
Definitely. Random question, but have you ever heard of someone buying a house or completing a real estate
Yeah,
transaction, sorry, in Dash?
yeah, totally, totally. Back in, especially in 2018, we had a couple of real estate companies that started accepting Dash in Venezuela. One of them was called Real Max, and I know that they were accepting crypto. I don't know exactly how many sales they did in crypto, but I know for a fact I spoke to a couple of people that sold houses and they got paid in crypto. Why? Because let's say that you're in Venezuela and you cannot just make a wire from Venezuelan bolivars to whatever account, and you don't want to keep. Let's say you sell your house for $100,000, or maybe you sell it really cheap because you just want to migrate and you take 50,000.
Hmm.
So you don't want me, you definitely don't want me to pay you the 50K in bolivars, because if I pay them in digital bolivars, you're going to be losing money and it will be stuck inside the country. So your ideal payment method will be dollars, but if I give you the dollars in cash, you literally cannot take it out of the country. And for me to give you the dollars in digital dollars, you would have to have an account in the US, and maybe that's not the case for most people.
Hmm.
So in those cases, if you receive crypto, that's a perfect solution because you will always have it in a digital form, and then you can move that money however you prefer. Whether that's putting 10,000 of those 50,000 into a friend's bank account in the US, that happens a lot in broken economies, and then change some of that into physical dollars and keep the other part for whenever you want to use it. So yeah, I've definitely seen more than a few transactions happening in crypto.
Hmm. And we're talking about when you buy and sell real estate. Obviously, there's one thing that's different about that compared to just buying a chicken sandwich at churches is that there's real estate taxes and transfer taxes and notaries and stuff like that. And it sort of speaks to the larger macro trend that we're seeing around crypto versus the state. And what have you seen in terms of? I mean, at this point, I'm sure the Venezuelan government is well aware of crypto. Um, Maybe not in their official, communiques, but they're definitely aware that people are sort of using it on the ground. Um, Like what is sort of the interaction with the state and the Venezuelan government with crypto, and what are some of the nuances of something like that where you want to buy and sell a house, but there kind of should be like a tax.
Yeah. Well, to many people's surprise, the Venezuelan government is very modern when it comes to crypto. They have an agency that's called Sunacrip that's 100% dedicated to the cryptocurrency legal framework and oversight in the country. So
Hmm.
there is an agency that deals with it. There is a tax law that was appointed or that was created by some of the tax schools in the country. So, yeah, not only is the government of Venezuela now really aware that this is happening, they've worked to put on a legal framework that would allow them to oversee what's going on. So, if you want to do crypto stuff in Venezuela, you have to get requirements and permissions to run your exchange or anything. So yeah, the government knows very well what they're doing, and this is besides their intention of launching their own cryptocurrency. I don't know if you remember the Petro, which was an intent of running a cryptocurrency, and then, in my
Hmm.
opinion, it didn't work for several factors. One of them is that nobody outside of Venezuela wanted to take Petros, so that limited any type of liquidity building for them.
Hmm.
But besides that experiment that they did inside of the country, they have many advancements that are surprising for people outside.
Okay. Um, yeah, have you had any more thoughts on that? I do find that interesting, just sort of the anecdotal usage in Venezuela. I don't know if you, by the way, I don't know if you saw that we did interview Ian Blass from Bitcoin Cash Argentina, talking about how they're using Bitcoin Cash there. I know there's Bitcoin Cash in Venezuela as well. Um, so you're actually not, by the way, mentioning this late in the conversation, but I have actually had a couple people on to talk about crypto on the podcast. I had Mark Falzone to talk about um, Bitcoin Cash adoption in St. Kitts and Nevis, as well as they're starting to see it in the island of St. Martin and in Guadeloupe. So just thought I'd mention that.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, so now I thought we would talk a little bit more about the adoption and usability. Okay, so just how the heck are there 160,000 places in the U.S. accepting Dash? What's up with the partnership?
Yeah, cool. So yeah, I mean, before talking to you about Dash Direct, which is the answer to what you're saying, I
Hmm.
think that every action that is done to increase crypto adoption helps the whole industry. So I'm really happy to hear all these things you're telling me.
Hmm.
I don't see other coins as being a competitor at this stage that we are, where the crypto market is so small. Every inch that we get away from fiat is an inch that we're giving to people to have more freedom, and then they'll learn and they'll say, oh, I like this or that coin. But that's really great to see. And how do we get 160,000 places to accept Dash in the US? There's an app called Dash Direct, and Dash Direct is connected to tens or hundreds of different stores where you can, let's say, I wanted to go and buy
Okay.
at Applebee's. So
Yep.
if I were at Applebee's, this would give me 6.5% discount. So let's
Hmm.
say I'm an Applebee's, and then I would go and when it's the time to pay, I would pay with Dash. So let's say that the dinner costed $89.57.
Hmm.
I input it there, and when I press next, it tells me the discount level that I get, and I would pay, instead of 89.75, I would pay 83.75. And then what I do is I pay with Dash, and in the back end, it connects to my Dash wallet, but it doesn't give Dash to the Applebee store. It pays through a gift card network. So
Hmm.
when you are at the store, you say that you're going to pay with a gift card, but in front of you, you're paying with Dash. So you're buying the exact amount of the money that you need to pay. So you don't need to buy $100 gift card, for example, like you would do in other places, and it
Hmm.
just deducts everything directly from your Dash wallet. It's a very beautiful and very streamlined operation. And just like I'm showing you here, if I push that button that says purchase gift card, it takes me to my Dash wallet, and you basically sign a transaction like you would in many other cases. And then it just deducts your $83, and then you pay and you're out of Apple Pay. It's really, really, really nice.
Definitely makes sense. It actually kind of reminds me of on my Chase credit card. Like if you go, it's like uh, on the website, it's like you can get these sort of discounts for Applebee's and Bed Bath and Beyond and whatever. And you just click it on the website, and then if you buy something in that store, it like applies the discount kind of retroactively, and it almost sort of looked like the same, a similar list of vendors. So I wonder if it's kind of like a similar gift card network.
Yeah, it could be. I'm not familiar with the inside part of how it actually works, but what I really love and what is really interesting is that this would allow anyone in the U.S. in a non-custodial way to spend their Dash. And to
Hmm.
make things even better, they launched a debit card. So now not only can you
Oh no way!
buy in these places with a with the card, but let me see, I saw it here. You can actually get a crypto debit card that needs no KYC. So, I mean, this is part of the power that I was mentioning to you of the DAO, where it's not only the protocol
It's awesome.
solution, there's also the other things that you can build around it. And this is one of the latest, I will call it go to market tools that have been developed under Dash. And it's really, really cool. All of my friends that are living in the US love it. And they love that, they can use their Dash at hundreds of thousands of locations. And now with the debit card, they can use it literally at millions of places. So it's really, really cool to see the DAO and work.
And this is part of the I guess promo segment of the podcast. But what is the so if I'm in the Google Play Store, like what am I downloading or what am I searching to get this app?
Dash Direct. Here, let
Dash
me show you.
Direct. And so why would it
Here.
not be showing up for me? Is it only in the US or
It's only in the US for now.
okay?
Do you have a Mexican account?
Oh no, wait, no, I think I am seeing it. Is this
Yeah.
it? Is it made by Craypay Inc?
Yep, yep, that's it. That's it.
Okay, 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 cool.
Yep, that's it.
This is pretty new.
Yeah, it is one of the newest things we have launched as a network. And oh yeah, I was gonna show you, but I cannot show you because I have a Mexican account, and it doesn't show up for me, but it shows up for you because this is US only.
Yeah, I think my Google Play is set to the US Google Play Store, but I am in Mexico
Yeah, yeah,
downloading off
but
Wi-Fi.
yeah, if you set it up for an American Google Play
Hmm.
options, it will show you. If you're set up for non-US, it will not show you, and the reason is simple: there are no agreements to enable these gift cards outside of the US for now.
Hmm. Right, right, right. No, it makes sense. I mean, I'm downloading it right now.
There you go. There you go. And when you're in the US, use it. I mean, it's you're going to love it. And the people that I've introduced them to this, they just say that it's so easy and straightforward to use. And there's two types of people that I've seen loving this. Number one, the crypto fanatics, and they're like, cool, now I can finally spend my crypto directly. And number two, the people that want to save money. So those that want to save money, you can go and buy a little bit of Dash right before doing your shopping, and you can get, between 6 to up to 13% at some things, or maybe 9. I'm not sure of the higher part, but at around 6% discounts, and people love to get discounts. So I think this is a very cool, unique, and new feature that Dash enabled to the crypto world.
Yeah, and I'll actually read a couple of reviews just because it's sticking out to me from in the Play Store. So it's saying, booked a hotel for a family vacation, had a coupon for hotels.com, and saved almost $150 just by paying with this app. Pretty cool. Another top review: I live unbanked off crypto and am used to struggles of trying to use it in real life. Not anymore. Dash Direct makes it extremely easy not only to find where I can spend it, but to actually go through the payment process, etc., etc. This is one of the first experiences that I can recommend to family and friends who aren't already into crypto because they'll find it easy enough to use to overcome the learning hurdle. So, a couple cool reviews there.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, try it out and then tell us what you think. And uh, this is still work in process. There's still many things that are yet to be added there. So it's always cool to see this market evolve.
Yeah, and if anyone's wondering, like, what's the whole point of just like doing it in Dash? Well, it looks like you're going to get discounts and pretty big ones at that, and at major retailers. So yeah, I don't see why not.
Yeah, try it out.
Awesome. I had another question, and it was it was about market cap. So sorry, I know market cap's not really like the best,
Mhm.
metric for things like that. Um, but so adoption seems to be awesome for Dash, 160,000 retailers, tons of different countries and stuff like that. Um, but I'm sure people might be wondering this, so I might as well ask it. So, at the time of this recording, Dash's market cap is like 1.5 billion or so. It's
Mhm.
like 75th largest coin, something like that.
Mhm.
Bitcoin Cash. Sorry to keep bringing up Bitcoin Cash, but Bitcoin Cash is market cap is like 6.5 or 7 billion.
Mhm.
And at least from what I see anecdotally, the adoption's quite a bit lower, although maybe a bit more geographically distributed, like in Asia and the Caribbean and
Mhm.
stuff. What do you like? Who do you think's like winning the adoption battle, and like why would Bitcoin Cash's market cap be like 3 or 4x?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, like I told you before, I know very much about Dash. I don't know a lot about the other coins. But I have seen something that whenever there's coins that fork off of Bitcoin, they tend to have a bigger market cap, even though some of them have, to my knowledge, not very much use. I'll just say Satoshi Vision Bitcoin, that has a higher market cap than Dash. And I have yet met one person that uses Bitcoin Satoshi version. So I would imagine that it has something to do with the tokenomics of
And
what
just how the
happens.
word Bitcoin is in the name of the coin.
Yeah, yeah, but when you fork the coin, let's say you fork the coin at the 15 million coins mark, that takes for granted that, you know, let's do this exercise. Let's and I don't know if Bitcoin SV has also 21 million coins, although I imagine it does. But let's say there's only going to be 21 million coins. And then you fork when there's 18 million coins that have already been issued. So
Hmm.
you have a fork with 18 million coins, but many of these coins are lost and are never claimed. So you have a low liquidity of coins with a very big distribution of coins that you're accounting for. So when you multiply the 18 million coins that should be in circulation for
Hmm.
today's price of the small amount of liquidity that you have out there, you can have very large market cap without necessarily that being a reflection of all the market. Does that make sense? So
Yeah.
I think that that is one of the reasons why some coins look like they're having a big market cap. And yeah, that is one of the easiest ways of measuring usage. And I agree that that is something that is tangible. But the other point is that I see that still a lot of the payments coin are the payments use case is not as big as it could be, although the industry is a couple trillion dollars. So what I imagine and what we're working on is we'll keep on building and we'll keep on getting more and more integrations, and
Hmm.
eventually the usability is going to catch up to more value in the market. So all of the payments coin have been a little bit left behind for the NFTs and the newer protocols types of promises.
Hmm.
But I think it's just a matter of time until more people start seeing usability for what it is and not only speculating on what the future developments will be for all of these newer markets.
I believe it. I believe it. By the way, Ernesto, you're excellent at setting me up for segues. So so let's talk about what the future of Dash looks like. Um, what projects do you guys have on the horizon, and what does the future hold?
Yeah, well, definitely we're going to be integrating into more and more larger points of sale companies. We are personally, I am in conversations with about four or five very large non-crypto companies that are exploring how to use cryptos, and they're taking Dash as one of their first options. So I envision that in the next year or two, we, and I mean we, anyone around the world and in the Americas, will be able to pay with Dash at thousands or hundreds of thousands of places without it being so much a niche. So that is one growth segment that I'm seeing. And Dash is about to launch a new capability on the platform called Dash Evolution or Dash Platform that will allow that will allow developers to write things on the blockchain. And what this will allow is that, let's say you open up your Dash wallet and you sign up as a Vance, and then when I'm going to pay you, I can look into my Dash wallet Vans, and then it will just connect to you and say Ernesto wants to pay you. So this will allow for more of a Venmo capability, and that is only the first stage. A second stage that we're seeing is, let's say you're a Pizza Hut and you want to pay with crypto. Then after they show you the bill, they'll tell you, "Hey, what's your name on the Dash wallet?" And you'll tell them your name, and you will get an incoming message saying Pizza Hut wants to bill you for $38.5. So this is going to allow for more conversations between different parties through APIs. And another, a little bit more technical, but very cool capability is that programmers will be able to store data on the blockchain without having to use a single point. I don't know if you're aware or you remember this. A couple of days ago, a very popular Ethereum wallet stopped working for certain countries. The way this, or the reason of this, is that the Ethereum wallet is decentralized, but it connects to the blockchain through a centralized service. So if the centralized service gets a subpoena for the government and says you cannot serve Mexico anymore, they can do it. What is happening with Dash is that this connection to record stuff on the blockchain is going to happen through the 5,000 masternodes that I mentioned, and that's going to be truly decentralized. So even if an organization came to you as a masternode owner and said you cannot serve Mexico anymore, for example, you would block it, but then there's other five over 4,999 masternodes around the world that will not be blocking that transaction. So what we see is that this is going to open the door for more decentralized use cases. And we know, I mean, you've been living in Mexico and Latin America for some time. We know that the decentralization of finance is something that can provide a lot of good. And we still don't know what's going to be built on top of it, but I'm sure very excited to see what the future holds with this. upgrade that's going to allow for efficiency, low cost, and fast transactions like we have now. But it's also going to allow some of the Ethereum capabilities that will enable us to take Dash to the next level. And that's very exciting.
That is very exciting. And so, you living in Mexico, I mean, I guess, could you speak a little bit to the adoption and utilization in Mexico?
Yeah, Mexico is one of the countries with the highest or the highest levels of development and fintech companies in the Americas. But because the banking system is really good, and I'm sure if you've been here and you have a Mexican account, you have seen that the transfers are pretty fast and there's ATMs almost everywhere. So there's not a lot of people eager to use other financial systems. So there's a lot of development on, there's a lot of organizations and unicorns and people building stuff, but there's not a lot of usage by everyday people. So this is one pending item that all of us that work in fintech still need to do for crypto in Mexico, because yes, there are a lot of fintechs and there are the Albo cards and there's a lot of neobanks that are popping up, but still not too much of crypto usage. And my interpretation is that there's not a big need, but we still have to find out some use cases and develop them before they're needed.
Definitely. Interesting. All right, man. Well, we hit the hour and a half mark, and I definitely want to be respectful of your time. Speaking of Mexico, I saw that I was just Googling and I saw something about Talent Land 2022 in Guadalajara. Is this an event that you're going to be participating in? What's that
Yeah,
about?
I haven't spoken to the Talent guys this year, but they're friends. And since you're going to be in Guadalajara, I'll be more than happy to make an intro there so you can get close by and check it out, or maybe just participate in some forum. So I'll definitely make the intro to you. That's uh, that's probably the largest or one of the largest conferences that speak about talent in Latin America. They're organized. I mean, they've been virtual for the past 2 years because of COVID. But when they were not
Hmm.
virtual, what happens is they usually gather at the, oh my God, I forgot the name of this place. But anyways, they gather at the Guadalajara Expo, and
Hmm.
they usually gather for about 4 days, and they're divided in different areas. They have blockchain land, they
Oh,
have
wow.
talent land, of course, they have gaming land, and you can just go and see all that's been built and what's been developed for Latin America. They have a huge part of hackers, so you also get, I think it was somewhere around 3 to 5 thousand people camping and just coding all of the week to win hackathons. So it's a really unique and cool experience. I hope you can make it. I'll definitely make an intro to the Talentland team to you, and just figure out if you want to go, or how
Yeah,
you
that'd be
can.
cool. I think I saw it's in late July this year.
Yeah,
Um, so that's awesome. Okay. And then so we're going to have everyone download the Dash Direct app. Um, it's on Android. I imagine it's on iPhone as well, iOS.
yeah, 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 yeah,
Cool.
definitely.
Android and iOS Dash Direct. Yeah, I guess we're at the segment where you can sort of promote and plug anything that you want related to Dash or your other projects.
Yeah, I mean, if people want to learn more about Dash, they can go in English to @DashPay on Twitter and Instagram. And
Hmm.
if they want to check that out in Spanish, they can go at Dale con Dash. And if they want to chat with me, they can just go to @Ernesto Contreras, which is my Instagram and Twitter name, and I'll be
Hmm.
more than happy to continue the conversation and answer any comments or questions, or just chat. So just let's keep the conversation going.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, the Twitter handle is at dashpay, DASHPAY, and then yours is Ernesto Contreras. Um, By the way, I noticed there was a famous Mexican like film director named Ernesto Contreras.
Yeah, yeah, that's really bad for my SEO, right?
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah, but yeah, I funny a funny thing is that Contreras is a very very popular last name in some parts of Mexico, and it's not a. I mean, it's popular in a part of Venezuela, and it's also
Mhm.
popular in the north of Mexico. So that was an interesting discovery.
Yeah, and by the way, we do talk a lot about residency and citizenship and stuff on this podcast, helping people sort of internationalize their lives. Are you or would you become Mexican given the opportunity?
Yeah, yeah, it's something that I haven't done because I always postpone it. But I mean, given the issues with my own country, it's something I learned after living abroad is that having two citizenships or two passports is
Hmm.
always beneficiary. So it's one of those projects that I've always said, oh, I should do it one day. I should do it one day. Uh, I don't know, maybe this year or next I will try.
You must be more or less eligible or very close
Yeah,
because you've been in Mexico so long.
yeah, yeah. You're eligible in Mexico after, I think, 2 years of having your permanent residency. And I'm already way past that. So I just haven't done it because there's always something happening.
Okay, cool. I know a lawyer or two in Playa that maybe I could introduce you to.
Cool. Let's do that.
Awesome, man. Well, dude, thank you so much for joining the My Latin Life podcast. Gracias por tu tiempo. This has been a really educational episode. I definitely learned a lot, and I'm sure the audience did as well.
Oh, thank you for the invitation. And anytime you want to chat, when you come back to Playa del Carmen, let me know, and me and your Venezuelan friend will take you out for arepas and drinks. And we'll definitely stay in touch, man.
Awesome. Thanks again, bro.
All right. Take care.